Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We're ready to go on this Groundhog's Day, February the 2nd. Thanks for joining us. Be a part of the show. Leave your feedback. Get involved. We like it that way, where we hear from the people, see where Michigan fans are at with what's going on with the Wolverines. You say, well, what's going on with the Wolverines? Well, we had National Signing Day yesterday, and we are going to be talking about that for sure. We'll also look at what's on tap for next year, and that's already going, if you pay attention to, and you do, you pay attention to these things. It's continuing to happen, and it might be buffered with some events that are happening tonight. So you've got that. Speaking of tonight, Michigan basketball is at Northwestern, and we will touch on that. But we'll look back to recruiting yesterday and taking stock on how everything went down and what's happening with Michigan. I don't know. I don't think people have a Michigan recruiting hangover. You know, yesterday, that's one thing with recruiting fans. It's like they're out. It's always going. You're always ready. You want to know who's next, what's happening. If it's not 23, it's 24, 25. Let's go. Put them in. You just can't get enough news when it comes down to Michigan and recruiting. So with Michigan, we knew they had 23 of their 24 recruits already in from the early signing period, and Michigan was ranked as 17. And so we've already talked about a lot of the issues, but you touch on it again, you revisit everything when you have National Signing Day, and then it becomes official with the class and everything like that. And Cameron Brandt was a little bit of he wasn't going to be a surprise earlier in the week because he had just come in and visited Michigan, but then it looked like he was thinking about something elsewhere. I mean, if you follow such things, it looked like there was a good shot, then it looked like it wasn't going to happen, and then all of a sudden it did happen. And Brandt from California, a defensive lineman, defensive tackle, ups Michigan's commitments to 24 for this 23 class this upcoming year, the freshmen that'll be coming in, and Michigan ranked 18th rivals, and it looked like that's where most of the other places had Michigan too. I saw 119, but mostly 18s, and so that's about where they're at when people that judge such things and rank them. And you say, well, wow, Michigan was top 10 last year, and they've won the Big Ten. They've been to the college football playoffs. So how come that success hasn't translated? And that's a good question, and one that I think you already know the answer to, but we'll deal with a little bit coming up here. But the other thing is to think about is that this is the lowest rated class since back in 2018 when Michigan had the 24th ranked class in the country. And there was a lot of boo-hooing about that class, and I was right there with everybody. It's like, wow, man, barely a top 25 class. This doesn't bode well. And it might not have boded. It might not have. You felt like had Michigan the greatest position, of course, but there were so many players. We've gone over them that were key figures in Michigan winning back-to-back. That what it tells me is that you can have a wobble. You can have a class that is not top 10 or top 5, which you would like, and you could still be okay. You could still beat Ohio State. You can still get to the college football playoffs. That can happen. Now, more than one class, well, that's when you're getting into, I don't know. But, things as everybody knows in college football, things didn't change for so long. It was kind of the same stuff, same things, and talking about playoffs and paying players. And then it's just rapidly changed. And Michigan is adapting, maybe not to the way that you would like. Before we get to that, yesterday, I said I would shave my head and my beard. I almost did that. You could say I look like I got a 5 o'clock shadow because I do. I completed 90% of the shaving. Something came up right before the show, or it would be completely me doing what I said and shaving my head and beard. I got pretty close to that, but the reason I had to do that, if you missed yesterday's show and the guarantee or the day before, is that Nyckoles Harbor even though the gurus, even though the experts, even though many of you Michigan fans looked at it and were telling me that Harbor was not going to Michigan anymore, that he was headed elsewhere, that it was down between Carolina and Oregon, I stuck to my guns and thought, this guy's different. He is going to go to Michigan. They had been in on him. He had talked about so much about academics, and, Michigan was recruiting him as a wide receiver, or allowing him to start out there, where the other schools were like, no, you got to play somewhere else. To me, that was adding up to Harbor shocking the world and going to Michigan, and then that did not happen. So here we are, and I have to deal with it. And I need to be like a lot of other recruiting fans. You are who you are, like, at a certain point, and I know how I am when it comes down to sports, but when it comes to recruiting, I need to take a page from a lot of recruit necks who, you know, certainly they're all involved in a guy like, Harbor, and, they want him. But as soon as it's done, they're able to move on. Yeah, and everything's move on. Flip the page, turn the page, on to somebody else. We never wanted him, or whatever. He's not going to work out. We'll get him in the transfer portal. Whatever you say that helps you move on. I'm sitting here 24 hours later, and I have not been able to move on yet. And that's a problem. The kid looks really happy picking South Carolina. He's going to run track there. All the best to him and everything else. But, man, the problem is that you monitor these situations for months at a time, and you start thinking, oh man. And it wasn't just Harbor specifically. It's what it would have meant for Michigan as well. Because if Harbor, let's just say for a second, he would have committed to Michigan, it would have been great. It would have been a party. I had the champagne, I had the shirts, I had all the I was partying. Yesterday was going to be a big party. And now, I don't know. I'm going to have to save all. We'll see what's salvageable and everything else, but the party's not happening. It would have been great news for Michigan, to land a fast player like Harbor. But what it would have indicated is that Michigan had broke through when it had come to name, image, and likeness. As much success as they have had on the field, they have not enjoyed that success in recruiting, specifically 5 stars. They haven't been able to get any. And if they were able to get that recruitment from Harbor, the feeling here would have been that would have broken the seal, that would have been Michigan taking the step and busting through when it came down to 5 stars and name, image, and likeness. And now, at least when it comes to landing 5 stars, it's back to the drawing board with name, image, and likeness. Now, how Michigan sits around and talks about it, did Harbaugh and company, who may, have already had the discussion, like, well, we'll just keep, trying with the next 5 star, and if it doesn't work, we'll go on. I don't know what kind of approach they are having with it, but I'm 0 for 1 when it comes down to me taking on a new role, and that was as recruiting predictor of 5 stars to Michigan, and I have to wear that. I'm 0 for 1. It was a package prediction this week. Not only was I predicting Harbor to Michigan, but I was predicting Jaden Davis, which is even more important for Michigan for the obvious reasons. And I'm not going back on that prediction. I'm staying with that one. Just because I struck out with Harbor doesn't mean that I'm going to strike out with Davis. So that's where I'm at when it comes down to predicting. I will take any of any of your feedback on it. Certainly criticisms of my predicting prowess. Any of that, it's deserved, and I'm here, and I'll just try to get better when it comes down to it. I'm sorry that I couldn't deliver on my prediction. Andres had faith in me. I'm sorry, buddy. I hate reading that. I was like, I am going to apologize again. Luke says you need to get rid of Ward. Well, if you've been following this, Luke, I think that is kind of like fan stuff or other site kind of criticisms. If it wasn't for Ward, Luke, you wouldn't have back-to-back championships because most other athletic directors would have moved on from Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know, and that was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you're saying, hey, that was a long time ago, so nice job. But this is about what's going on right now with name, image, and likeness. And if you really think that it's Warde Manuel, who's the guy that last year was the one that was saying Michigan is about being transformational, not transactional? That wasn't Warde Manuel. And yeah, I'm not saying he's sitting behind the scenes, dealing all the cards out saying, oh man, we're really on top of all this. We're ready to really be on the cutting edge when it comes to name, image, and likeness. I don't feel like that. There's a lot of things going on with Michigan that way. But the biggest thing when it comes to name, image, and likeness, let's just spell it out, Luke. You want Michigan to pay signing bonuses like the majority of the other top 25 college football teams. You can't get caught. Everybody's doing it. Nobody cares about it. So you want Michigan to do it. And so you're criticizing Warde Manuel about it, and that's fair. Go ahead. But it doesn't sound like Jim Harbaugh wants to do it either. Then if he was, what was he towing the company line about transformational over transactional? Because he doesn't seem like a line tower, Harbaugh. He'll fight you. He'll interview with the Broncos after he tells you he's not going to. He'll take a fate. He'll do all these different things. And, January Harbaugh is not the most fun Harbaugh. But I think when it comes to let's get rid of Ward, I think that's fan stuff, and you're just frustrated that Michigan's not getting 5 stars. And I'm frustrated that Michigan's not getting 5 stars. And if it meant that Michigan was going to change their approach with going after the top 100 recruits and the top players, and it was going to work in basketball, and it was going to be work in football, and they were going to have a new approach to how they go after these guys, and it meant then getting rid of Ward, and they said, will you sign off on that? Well, yeah, I'll sign. But is that what we think is going to happen? Is that what we think is going to happen if Michigan did in this, fantasy world of that we're playing right now on Groundhog's Day? That if Michigan brought a new athletic director, that they're going to start paying money? The hill that Jim Harbaugh is dying on, and Michigan is fighting with the NCAA and not telling them about the minor infractions they had because they're upset that everybody else is paying. Now Michigan's going to bring in a new athletic director, and they're going to start paying the players. That's what you're saying, Luke. So, I mean, that's what I get it. Like I said, I'll sign up for that. I don't sit here and talk about, hey, it's against the rules. And, Michigan's about, this is a college football, my favorite sport. And I love sports. It has always been a dirty, nasty, cheaters, everywhere sport. Yeah, there's some good things to take out of it, and I like highlighting those. But it's a dirty sport. So when people start saying, we don't want to do that, we're Michigan, okay, all right. Woo! GFF has got my back a little bit. I appreciate it. Hopefully the Davis prediction comes through and I'll be 50-50. That'll make me feel a lot better. Jason says, as a beautiful 44-year-old man that is follically challenged, I can and will assure you, skin is in and bald is beautiful. Side laughing emoji guy. Yeah, Jason, I'm with you, man. But there was the longest time where I was losing my hair, and I thought, oh man, this sucks. But then about, I don't know, 10 years ago, if and maybe they'd even do have the pills or tonic or whatever else, but if they had it available right now where they just say, hey, look, the FDA is going through this and people are just, popping this pill and their hair just grows wildly, it's awesome. You'll have this great hair and, there's no side effects. You're good to go. Do you want it? I'd say I'm good. I don't need it. So that's where I'm at when it comes down to hair. Talk about the team. That's why Gladiator focuses on the team, particularly the one that's going to be on the field for next year. That's a good thought, and hold that one because we are going to be talking about the team coming up. In the words of Jay Billis, bald is always in style because bald is always funny. Yeah, Jay Billis is funny. I remember thinking that I'm not actually even sure which way I was. Let me think about it, because I liked Jay Billis's commentary, like when he did a basketball game, and then when I would listen to him like commentate like in a studio setting, I didn't like him, or it was the other way around. Which one would it have been? I think I liked him on the games and didn't like him on the studio, but now I like him. Like he's he loves the game. He's into it. He's got opinions on it. There, I could see how people could be like, he's a dookie. Sure, he is. But, I've grown to like. He's grown on me. Like, not hair, but maybe like a mole, something like that. One more from the Gladiator for Freedom. He says, when it comes to 5 or 4 stars, let's stay in our lane. We usually get 3-star players and develop them to compete at the highest level. Yeah, I think that sounds good, but I don't think it's true. Like, sure enough, that 2018 class, there were a bunch of 3 stars, and that's, would be your first, if we were going up there and making a presentation, Gladiator, you'd say, this 2018 team, look at them. Look at all these guys, Bell and Schoonmaker, and these were the guys with a backbone of back-to-back Big Ten championships. We can develop them. And it's a good point. The other side of that is, what about McCarthy? What about Donovan Edwards? What about some of the other top-tier players that if it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago when there was NLI, would Michigan be getting that caliber of players? Because I'm not sitting here and saying that Michigan needs to go out and it would be nice to be able to bring in all the players that you want and be like Georgia and all of that. I don't think they're ever going to be like that. They don't have the recruiting base. But can they get into the top 10? Certainly. Can they get into the top 5 once in a while? Yeah. And you're going to have to do that. If you want to not only beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, go to the college football playoff, and then have a chance to win a national championship, and that's what I want. I want a chance to win a national championship. Michigan is going to have to pull in some 5 stars. They can have a wobble like they have right now, but you got to get some of those top players. OT says most ADs would not have fired Harbaugh after the COVID season. Well, I'll just disagree with it. I mean, that's fine. You have your opinion. I have mine. Maybe not. Maybe because of COVID, and maybe if it wasn't a COVID season, I would have more of a point. And maybe that is your point, that because it was COVID. But there were plenty of other college football programs that actually were. Even though there was financial crisis and everything else that went with, I don't know why I had to say it like that. It was COVID. And a lot of people were like, yeah, now's not the time. Although there were plenty that were. So we'll just disagree with that. I've already stated that's not something like I need to come up with every week and say, I think the majority of Michigan fans and former players certainly were ready to move on. I mean, I felt that. That's it. So, we're stargazing and talking about it and looking through it and everything else and getting into the talk about your lane and everything else. And yeah, Michigan built on 4 stars but you need that top tier talent too. Mr. Glasper indicates that Harbor made the worst decision he could have possibly made from his Final Four. Now you got to bring up Harbor again. I was ready to move on. How are you bringing up Harbor? Well, it just happened yesterday. That's why you're bringing it up, Mr. G. And I get it. And that just continues to give me the Harbor Blues. The Harbor Blues, Mr. G. I've got them. See if I can get rid of them somehow. Not fun. Thanks. Here's one way to think about, and it's what's happening immediately. Will this be sustainable? Is this Michigan's approach? It is this year. And last year at this time, I was complaining about this piece of Michigan football and saying that they were going to have a hard time in the future not being able to compete. And in fact, probably I don't, hear or see everything that, people that are commenting on or writing about, but I think everybody thought the same thing. At some point they were saying, yeah, well, you got to get that top talent and Michigan can't bring in transfers. But that changed because Michigan brought in the Magnificent Seven. And while I haven't seen, Tuttle and Burner from Indiana, I've seen play, but the rest of the guys I haven't. I mean, I've looked at how they are ranked and what people are saying about them. And Hausman had a good game against Michigan. I have that game on tape. I'll need to go back and watch that. And I can say, ooh, there's Hausman. I'll be looking a lot closer for him. But now the Michigan brings in the Magnificent Seven. And if you blend that in and combine it with a freshman class that is ranked 18, it is easy to think that Michigan is like a top 10 combination, recruiting, transfer portal put together. In fact, I'll put them at number 7 in the country. Now, if you look at it like that, and who's telling me that that's not the way to look at it? I think that is the way to look at it. Recruiting is, down the line, but, the way college football is going now with the transfer portal, taking advantage of the rules that are in place. Some people don't follow the rules or taking advantage of, the looking at the lay of the land and then taking advantage where you can. This is legal. Like this isn't even a second, you're not catching a secondary violation or anything here. You can go out and do this. And I would think just off the cuff here that Michigan's going to have 3 or 4 major contributors to their football team next year. And I would predict that Josiah Stewart. Michigan is a defensive end, outside linebacker. Stewart, I think, is going to be in the rotation. Boom. Linebacker, inside linebacker. 2 out there on the field. At times, if it's not going to be Michael Barrett or if it's not going to be Junior Colson, you're going to have a rotation where it could be Ernest Hausman. Heck, would it be a huge surprise if Hausman was a starter? Not to me, it wouldn't. We know on the offensive line that Michigan's got some tackles and they've got some guards. But Ryan Hayes is a spot. So left tackle and center. Ladarius Henderson has played both guard and tackle. Hinton is a tackle. So either of these guys could figure in, certainly in the 2 deep and depth or a swing tackle and how injuries go. One of these 2 guys could play a huge role for Michigan, and it wouldn't be a gigantic shock if one of these guys were a starter. I think the prediction right now that nobody would disagree with is that Drake Nugent would be the starter at center for Michigan. And then Tuttle, you never have too many quarterbacks, especially one with experience. And then A.J. Barner at tight end. Way things are going. Loveland, they got a lot of competition there. Who knows how he figures in, but the Magnificent Seven puts Michigan, and this is the way I'm going to look at it, instead of like, oh, they're ranked 18. This means that in the future, well, not if you can buoy the class with transfers like they have this year. So that's how I'm looking at it. I don't know. Maybe you look at it differently. Maybe it's like, no, it's got to be recruiting. Can't do all this. If you do it, Michigan is in trouble. Dooney Dunn's taking the transfers into consideration. Not that bad at all. Yeah, we're on the same page. Andres doesn't even like the 5-star concept. There's no way you can predict the future of first-round picks out of high school. Yeah, well, I think there's a point to that, Andres. And for me, this is sports and this is entertainment. When I look at the NFL in the offseason and Lion fans love the offseason, and all NFL and Lion fans, I was going to say all NFL fans, really successful teams, they look at the draft and they're like, we're picking to the back end. But the Lions, it's been called their Super Bowl over the years, the draft. And everybody loves the draft. And you know what everybody talks about? They talk about the first round pick. They talk about the first 5 picks. And it's just constant. And where are the Lions sitting right now, number 6? I'll guarantee that over the next couple months, the biggest topic is going to be free agency. Sure, it's going to be that draft and that number 6 pick. Maybe one of those guys, because there's a big 3 in quarterbacks that are there, and there's another 2 players that that you would love to get. And one of them's the defensive tackle from Georgia. One of them's the Anderson guy from Alabama. Then there's the 3 quarterbacks. If you're a Lions fan, you're hoping one of those 5 guys. That's all you do is talk about that. The majority of air is spent on those guys. But we know that your 2nd, 3rd, and all the way through the 7th round, finding the gems later on in the draft, that's going to make your team. That's going to make you be able to win. And then it's undrafted free agents as well that it seems like every Super Bowl team finds and has them in their 2 deep and has them in their rotation. But we don't talk about that as much as we talk. It's just like the same thing with 5 stars. We love talent. We love the very best. And it's more of just a guide. Just a guide. And so you kind of have to put that into perspective. It doesn't mean everything, but it's fun. And it means something. Like having really high first-round pick, I think it's like the expectations that come along with that. I mean, that's the way to say it. Eddie is doing something that I want to do. He's moved on from Harbor. Starting with the 24 class, Michigan has a better start signing a few supers. Yeah, that's, Eddie, I think that's the way to do it. I think that, for me, listening to you, forget about Harbor. Look at Michigan. They got a really good start, and it's 4-star, 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 left and right for this 24 class. Great point by Eddie. Let's give him a little star. I don't know if the star shows up or not, but I just starred you. Maybe when people are, can you see the star that I just starred, Eddie? So when people are looking through, they'll be like, oh, there's a star. I do know that if you put a tip in it, like lights up the whole thing and everybody can see that. But that costs you. That'll cost you to get a big highlight. The star, I don't know if people can see it or not. It's free. Available talent should be a category. What's that mean? Like transfer? Blending that in? Is that the kind of thing that we're talking about? There it is. Richard making a point on the Lions. Jack Campbell of Iowa, inside linebacker, may be a Detroit Lions early pick. Awesome player. Yeah, he is an awesome player. I think that if one of the big three, my little Lions draft, I thought about it a little bit. I think if one of the big three of Stroud, Levis, or Young fall to 6, I wouldn't be against the Lions picking one of those quarterbacks at 6. Falls right into your lap. Let's do it. I also think where they pick 16, that if Richardson from Florida, I don't know about any of the other guys, but maybe they fall in love with a guy, take him at 16. Is it 16 or 18? 16, I think. I wouldn't be against that, taking Richardson. Other than that, I hope the defensive tackle from Georgia or the outside linebacker Anderson from Alabama falls. And somebody could jump in front, and easily one of those guys would fall back, and I think that they're doing good. Really, there's a bunch of corners, and then there's some defensive ends. They'll have them rated. You'll have a feeling on that as well. But 6 isn't a bad spot to be, unless all 5 go exactly how we think, and then the Lions are going to have to sit there, and maybe they'll move it out at that point. Ooh, I didn't know this, that AM is a Browns fan. Woo! We hate the whole year. Well, it's not always like that. You guys just won a playoff game. Was it last year or the year before with Baker Mayfield? And you guys were looking pretty good. People were pretty excited about the prospects of the Browns. But yeah, the Browns and the Lions have a lot, we hate to say this, got an awful lot of similarities. They joust for worst franchise of all time in sports. I think the Browns right now have jumped in front of the Lions, because I feel a lot better about the Lions than I do the Browns right now. Eddie can't see the star. Well, I guess it's just for me. Huh? OT doesn't want to see any quarterbacks. I get that. I understand. That's just me. That's my opinion. I don't expect everybody to believe. Well, I don't know about believe. I don't expect everybody to share my opinion. Let's look at the name, image, and likeness. A lot of discussion about that. We've already talked about it a little bit here today. And for Michigan, I think this is true for NIL Michigan in 2023. When it comes to name, image, and likeness for Michigan, for getting 5 stars, it's bad. 5 stars, they have their ranking, and teams are willing to pay them money. They're willing to promise them money up front. Michigan has not done that. And so at least as we sit here right now, the ability to get 5 stars doesn't look too hot. Now, hey, maybe Jaden Davis will eschew millions of dollars and commit to Michigan. That's my prediction. This is going to be a rare case, but that's what I'm hoping for. What name, image, and likeness is good for is playing it by the book, and how I think the NCAA, and how maybe if we got 100 college football fans and we had a symposium, and you would say, hey, the players can come in, they can get the money. You're not promising it to them. Great. It's their piece of the pie. It's the 21st, I don't know, whatever else you want to say. And for Michigan, I think collective of those who stay will be compensated, whatever that collective was called this year. It worked brilliantly. Right? So when you say name, image, and likeness, it automatically say, oh, it's killing Michigan. Well, no, it's not. It's really helped Michigan for this year. Blake Corum would have been gone in any other season that there wasn't name, image, and likeness. I think Trevor Keegan and Zach Zinter would have been gone. And then who knows when it comes down to Chris Jenkins or Michael Barrett. We see it every year. Guys, they're ready to go pro. I don't care if they're going to be drafted. They hope they're going to be drafted, but they jump. And Michigan was able to get all of these guys back. So NIL has worked fantastic for Michigan in being able to keep players and compensate them. And it's really good for next year. And that's where the transfers are going to be really good in theory for next year. Now we start talking about down the line, and Michigan is going to have to make a decision, or can they afford another class like this next year? The first thing you say is no, but then you say unless they're able to go back to the transfer portal and you see it work out, like the guys that they got were just like, whoa, these are better than any 5-stars you could get. And then let's say, like, I think J.J. McCarthy is the second best quarterback returning in college football. I have him just behind Caleb Williams. Pro Football Focus just put out their list of quarterbacks, and they had J.J. McCarthy 8. No, a little bit further down than me. You know, they had May, they had Penix, you know, they had the guy from Wake that's going to Notre Dame. They had all these guys, the Florida State quarterback, the LSU quarterback, all in front of the Bo Nix they had in front of J.J. McCarthy. Throwing the 2 picks in the playoff game, it probably didn't help those guys in terms of ranking McCarthy, especially he didn't throw the ball a whole lot. He was handing it off, but I have him number 2. But the point to all of that is, let's say McCarthy finishes closer to 10 than 1 next year is like the quarterbacks, which is not going to put him in the first or maybe even in the second round. Will McCarthy then stay around for a senior season? You hope that he's, let's say that he's even like, I don't know, like number 6. Or if it stays true where he's number 8, sure, he could go, but that NIL might be able to keep him around. We'll be talking about that a little bit as the days and weeks and months go by. I think it was, I was trying to remember who said, let's move on. It's who I gave a star to. It was Eddie. Eddie said, let's start thinking about next year. Okay. That gets us to tonight. There is a 4-star safety from Harper Woods named Jacob Oden, pictured. He is announcing tonight at 6 o'clock. I have the up arrow next to him. Now, this is not any prediction from me, but I can say Seth Berry from the Maize and Blue Review has the up arrow next to Oden. And the experts from the Maize and Blue Review feel like Oden is going to be going to Michigan tonight. We'll have to find out about all that. Here we are recruiting. It was only yesterday they were sitting around waiting on an announcement. It didn't go Michigan's way. Now the experts are saying this is going to go Michigan's way, and we will see about that announcement tonight at 6 o'clock. But this is great news. Michigan, and this is in line of what they've been doing. They've been getting 4-star after 4-star after 4-star for next year. And Oden seems like a fabulous pickup if he ends up picking Michigan. Good size, Harper Woods, safety. Here he is, top 5 player in the state. Considering, you say, well, who's offering him? Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, Tennessee. That's a pretty good sheet. These are the teams that he's down to. He likes Michigan State too, but I just left them off. Screw him. So here he is, and he's expected to go maize and blue tonight. So that's something to look forward to and something that we'll be keeping an eye on for tomorrow. Let's see. Let's take some feedback. Andres was talking about Davis and Daniels. They're not better than McCarthy. A little bit early for that kind of talk. They could be. I mean, they're highly rated. So Jason talking about Nyckoles Harbor. Hey, just because I'm trying to move on and doing all my best and it doesn't help, what do I expect? I'm sitting here doing a Michigan show talking about recruiting. People are going to bring up Nyckoles Harbor. It's going to happen. And it's nothing against you, Jason. I haven't even read what you're saying yet. Let me see. There it is. So Harbor took the bag, that's the emoji, and track school over the better football and academic school. Folks, now we know kids don't always go by what they say. He lied about academics being his top priority. Yeah. Well, I mean, I follow recruiting enough where I don't always take what the kids say at face value. And then, well, you see, you got to take, you never met them. You're going to say, are you going to take a kid at face value? If they're saying academics is their top priority, well, then why aren't they going to the Ivy League or something like that? They can play football there. It's what it really comes down to. And sometimes it does come down to money. And then he is a track guy. And, what it usually comes down to. And I have seen guys pick schools for a variety of reasons. Some of them will say, hey, it was the maize and blue colors, the winged helmet. I just love the uniforms. It's happened. It's usually where they feel the most comfortable. That's what they say. And I get that. Not all of us have always had, a choice of everything. But a lot of it, it does come down to that, where you're most comfortable. Must be an amazing, you have the world is your oyster, the saying. You have all of these schools and you can go anywhere in the country. And you got guys telling you, hey, you want 250? I don't know what Harbor, I'm just guessing. And again, I don't care if South Carolina. I guess I do care. But nobody really cares. But besides me and a few others that South Carolina bundled together $500,000 and said, hey, we got a nice track school and we got $500,000 waiting for you. Nyckoles. Yeah, you want a degree from Michigan? This $500,000 is going to go a long way. This $500,000, get $500,000. Oh, you want $1 million? This $1 million can go a long way. Academics, that's nice. But so's $1 million. And look, it's true that not every decision that doesn't go Michigan's way is because of money. And in fact, I say in fact, at least, I'll say Josh Henschke from the Maize and Blue Review, he did a postscript on the recruitment of Nyckoles Harbor. And he said the NIL money was bigger at Oregon. I believe that. And when I read it, I'm like, that makes sense. So let's just say Oregon was saying, hey, here's $1 million. South Carolina was saying, here's $500,000. Oregon was saying, we got a nice track program. South Carolina is saying, hey, aren't a couple of your boys and, get some girls coming down here that, or maybe your girlfriend. I don't know. There's some of that kind of talk when I say reports. I don't know about his girlfriend. I don't know about his friends. And so I don't, maybe I say all of that and I read that kind of stuff. And that can be, should that be important to a 17-year-old? $500,000 and your friends and, the warmer weather. A lot of different factors in there. But you feel pretty comfortable? I mean, who am I to say if it was, if a girl factored in, money and football and track and then love? Those are tough things to overcome, especially when you're not offering any money up front if you're Michigan. If the Gamecocks were offering love, money, leather, and track, and Michigan's like, hey, we got a nice library. I don't know. We're in Michigan. Sometimes guys make decisions that don't involve Michigan, and it's okay. It doesn't mean they're the worst people in the world. Or they made a bad decision. Here's Brandon talking about Harbor's girlfriend. Not only is he talking about him, he's indicating that she runs track. Mm. The heart goes where your heart, like maybe South Carolina didn't even have to offer a dime. Maybe they just said, your girlfriend's here. Come on down, Nyckoles. And he's in love. Can't do anything about that. Right, Sam? Love is going to be tough to overcome. Oh boy. People know recruiting. They might even know, a few of you seem like you know more than I do about recruiting. You knew more about Oden from me. I've seen this thought many times over the last 24 hours. What's it matter? If he wants, he can hit the portal in a year or two and come home to Michigan. Well, that's right. And the way Michigan's been running the portal, Sam, let's say, I hope, there's a few of the people that I went to high school that are still married, got married to their high school sweethearts. There's a number of them. I can think of them. The Duke, still married. Henderson, married. Ingrid, married. All these guys to their high school sweethearts. I think it's pretty cool. I go on Facebook and I'm like, wow, man, these guys are married all of these years later. Look at it. You're in high school, you might think, boy, I'm marrying this girl, but maybe Nyckoles Harbor will be like the few people that from my high school, still married. But maybe like what Sam is indicating, there's also a lot of people that go their separate ways with their high school sweethearts, even if they go to the same college. And then there is the transfer portal. The whole reason, or one of the big reasons that he went there, I don't know. It can happen. You're right, Sam. It could happen. Yeah, love. Jason's indicating that we never wanted Harbor. Not a team guy. That's it. It's a very selfish move, according to Jason, Nyckoles Harbor. Academics is my top priority equals that's what my parents told me to say. Well, look, the kids in high school, I could just think, we all I don't know how much, maybe some of us more than others. Somebody got a hold of me and I was a junior in high school. I'd say, I want to go where there's the most money, the most party. What am I going to say? I want to go where where the women and money are. I want to win. I want to play. I want to go to the NFL. I want to play immediately. I want to be on TV. I want the most money and girls. But no, you're not going to say that. Those 5 things are really big to a lot of high school players, the majority of them. We can all remember when we were 17 years old, but that's not what they say. I'm a real team guy. Academics is a priority. Academics is really big. Here's NIL really isn't a factor. NIL is not a factor. I'm all football all the time. I just want to come in and compete. And I'm strictly, the books. Come on. We know where we're at there. It's, I say that I'm being funny, and there's a lot of that it's true. The one thing that is, when I'm saying that we're all 17, you listen to these guys, and it's like this for the majority. They're great players, and they've worked hard. Most of these guys have their heads on, a lot of them. I'll say most of them, a lot of them, man. Who was I talking with? You can listen to the interview that that I talked with a couple different guys. Eno Etta. You listen to him talk. I mean, that guy, sharp kid, good to go. Listen to him talk about what he's looking forward to. Go through it. A lot of impressive players and what they've done, outside of the classroom, that kind of stuff too. All right. What else do we have? We know that Oden is. The feeling is that he's going maize and blue, and he's making that announcement at 6:00 tonight. I want to tell you that if you want to know, there's a lot of people on here that know a lot of stuff. You guys are subscribers to the Maize and Blue Review. They're in tune with Michigan. They're getting their information from the Maize and Blue Review. You can too. Go to michigan.rivals.com and join up and be the first to know with the most accurate news. Get that done. The basketball team is still playing, and they've got 10 games left of the regular season, 5 at home and 5 on the road, including tonight in Evanston against Northwestern. Now, Michigan is 11-10. If they just go 500 the rest of the way, they'll be 16-15 heading into the Big Ten tournament. They need to do better than 500 the rest of the way. That means they're going to have to win some road games. Tonight is a winnable game at Northwestern, 7:00 start. The Cats only favored by 3 points. Now, Michigan's coming off a drubbing at the hands of another set of Cats, the Nittany Lions, where Michigan played arguably their worst game of the year. Unfortunately, they have a little competition for that because they played a couple stinkers this year against Central, against Arizona State over the last couple months. But the last game against Penn State stood on its own. So they need to win this game tonight. They can't just go 500 the rest of the way. This would be one, winning on the road, an excellent backcourt. What you have for Northwestern, it would be good. A reminder, following the game, Michigan Basketball Postgame Live right on this very feed that you are watching right now. So I will see you after the ball game tonight. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And we'll see you after the ball game tonight. Everybody have a great day. Goodbye.